All right, so if you are a California landlord or tenant, here are some suggestions for security deposits. Now, this looks overwhelming, but what we're doing here is providing an overwhelming amount of evidence to corroborate the landlord's claim that the listed deductions from the security deposit were proper and necessary. So it starts with my lawyer's cover letter. That's me, I'm the lawyer. And I've blocked out the tenant's information there for privacy. And then I have the breakdown of the deposits. I've also covered the first part of that page, which covers the tenant's information. But what I'm doing is listing out the amount of charges. And in this case, we are waiving the overage in good faith as a mutual compromise. So nothing is owed to us, nothing is owed from us to them. But you have to do this properly and within 21 days if practical. Otherwise, you have to file the preliminary itemized report within 21 days to let the tenant know that we don't have all the expenses yet. Here's what we do have, and here's what we're waiting on. Now that we do have them, and fortunately, we still are within 21 days for the final disposition, but barely. And it's very important that you do file within 21 days because there's statutory penalties if you don't. So this is going to be a quick overview of some of the main things that you need to look out for, whether you are a landlord or a tenant. And I'll keep this as quick as possible. So what we're doing is including the overall summary of what charges we made, what deductions were made from the security deposit, and why. And then we're providing the substantiation. It's always best if you have a receipt rather than an estimate or invoice. But if you don't have the receipt, it's more important that you file this within the 21-day statutory period if you have the invoice at least. So we're submitting that, and it's a breakdown of what charges are being made within the invoice. And most importantly, it includes the official letterhead of the contractor. Now, if you don't have an official letterhead because you had an employee do the work, then a statement by the employee usually, but not always, but usually will be sufficient. And then lastly, we have photos. So this is our final corroboration of all the damage that the tenant made in the unit. This helps to rebut the presumption that the unit was in perfect condition and we're just being arbitrary and capricious and trying to rack up damages. So I have all these images that were taken by the property manager. They sent them to me. And then what I did was combined, in this case, 9 images per page, double-sided, to show just an overwhelming amount of evidence that cannot be rebutted because it shows, A, this is the tenant's unit, and B, these are the tenant's possessions, all right? The tenant will obviously identify some of the possessions outside, some of the possessions in the room, and C, the extent of damage and filth and disrepair that was left by the tenant. So this gives us a very belt and suspender secure approach to corroborating our claim that A, we had no choice but to withhold the security deposit, B, the amount of damages exceeded the security deposit. So actually, while we seem like we were acting in bad faith by withholding the security deposit, we're actually acting in good faith by not seeking the arrearage over and above what the security deposit was. And C, we're clearly substantiating all of our deductions with specific receipts or invoices at least to corroborate all of the deductions that were made. Again, if you have the actual receipts that showed the amount paid, especially checks that can accompany that, canceled checks, that would be even better, or statements that show it was paid from a business checking account, etc., redacting your personal information, even better. So the point is just to make as many layers in your favor as possible, whether you are the landlord bringing the suit or the tenant bringing the suit. And then finally, if you have the move-in, move-out inspection report, you should include that as well.